Hello. Welcome to Promise Resource Network. This is Body, Mind, Spirit with me. I'm Jane, and I just realized that it looks dark over my head. I'm not sure why. I think it's because it's a rainy day and the light is lacking. And I'm going to try this. It's either going to be really good or really not. Okay. Hopefully, y'all are doing well today. I'm going to give everyone a moment to tune in. It is May 3rd, which tomorrow is May 4th, which always cracks me up because I always say, May the 4th be with you. And then hopefully people respond with, and also with you, because that makes me laugh. So, I want to talk about fear today. Let's get my hair situated. I was right about to walk outside and it was downpouring. So I was like, let's see, maybe that feels better. It's weird. So I'm going to play a little music to tune in. So tune in with me. Ta-da! That just centers me. So as you tune in, let me know how you're doing. I'd love to know how you're feeling and how your weekend was. I want to say good morning to my mother who's joining. I hope to talk to you soon. I would like to know how all things are going. That would be pleasant. I would like it. I would like to hear your voice. So yeah, I am curious how everyone's weekend went. At the end of last week, the moon went into Sagittarius and a bunch of other planets were doing a bunch of dances and we're getting all the solar energy. And something that was coming up for a lot of people was fear. Fear having its place in our life and for us to figure out ways to move through it. I spoke with a woman who was going to have an opportunity to speak in front of the people that she works with in a new way, in a really vulnerable way. And so there's like fear and trepidation with that. Some people that I know are going through job shifts, relationship shifts, a lot of movement in new areas of being. And in that unknown space, we can either shy away from it and not move through it, or we can be like, yep, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do it because I'm afraid. So moving through this fear, I want to say good morning to Charles, who's joining us. Hello. Saw a neighbor today that said that you were going to be on our streets there. I was like, yay. So I'm curious how your weekend was. If you had an opportunity to do something new or try something out, and if it brought up a sense of fear, whether it's fear of just doing something new, fear of the unknown, fear of being judged, fear of failing, if you just tried something new, and maybe that was not doing something, maybe your weekend is usually jammed full of all this stuff and things. And so maybe this past weekend you were still, maybe you were chilling. So I would like to know if anyone experienced that version of fear, not like, oh, I'm afraid. Because I want to just kind of talk about how healthy it is, how fear can be really healthy for us. Although it may not seem like it at the time, and it may not seem like it as you build up to whatever it is you're afraid of, but how it can actually be really beneficial to our body, our mind, and our spirit. So I hope everybody's doing well. Because I don't know about y'all, but whenever I have an opportunity to walk through something that I'm afraid of, just for whatever reason, it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable to be afraid of something, and then the magic that I feel when I am moving through it. So like doing the actual thing that I was so in fear of. And then there's this really interesting space right after I do the thing that I was afraid of that feels like nothing else. It almost feels like, well, you get a dopamine hit. Basically, it's a type of a dopamine hit because you're like, whoa, I just did a thing. And you're feeling the rush of a dopamine hit because of the action of whatever you did. But then you also get the dopamine hit after you realize what you just did and you're like in retrospect about it. I want to say good morning to Ben. I love that my mom says hey to everybody that tunes in because I feel like it's like a version of me that's like, hey, because we have the same name. It makes me really happy. I love it. Thank you. So yeah, I'm curious, did you all experience any fear this weekend? Did you climb a mountain? I did. Did you try a new restaurant? Did you, what did you do? I definitely went through a lot of things this weekend that were in that uncomfortable fear space, for sure. Like something small. I went on a hike yesterday and I got to cross a little creek, right? No big deal. This creek had like two little logs on it that I could either walk on or try to hurdle. I don't know. So I I walked over them myself without like any hands. Like I didn't take any hands that were being held out for me to get support. Um, so that was just a little fear, and a fear nonetheless. Like that moment of like I was about to cross the creek, and like that feeling of right before, like I don't want to do it. Well, I could just stay here forever, or I could turn around and end the hike short, or I could just face the fear and, worst case scenarios that I'd fall down in the creek. I mean, really, worst case scenarios that I would get dirty. Really worst case scenarios that I would get hurt. But okay, like we heal. And then while I was doing it, because I could still feel the fear, although little, right? It wasn't a big deal type of thing. But like one of the logs was wobbly. And I was like, so I'm like in the movement of the fear. I'm literally facing the moment that I thought, oh crap basket, I could fall in, I could fall down. It wobbled. And I could have again stopped. And at that time, I surely would have fallen in because I was in the wobble space. I could have retracted and gone back to the other side and not ever crossed the creek. Or I could do what I did, which was I felt the wobble and I went ahead and took the next step to get off of this little log to cross the creek. And then, so that gave me this dopamine hit, right? And then I thought, I did it. I did it. I just crossed the creek. I did it. And then that gave me like another dopamine hit, which was a perfect thing because I got to then climb up a really steep incline, so these moments of fear that we get an opportunity to face, I kind of want to talk about that. And I just want to say hey to Alan. Good morning. I'm happy you're here. Mama Jane says that she had experienced fear and anxiety when she took her dog Gomez to the vet to find out the cause of his seizures. The fear of losing him was overwhelming. Yeah, the fear of losing a loved one, right? A pet, a partner, a parent, the three P's. Dear God, really. The three P's, P squared, right? Um, there's this fear of losing that, right? That companionship, that love. And, I random, but check this out. I drew an oracle card yesterday for my meditation, just so I have something to kind of sit with instead of letting my mind just go all monkeying around. And it mentioned the goddess Kali, who was the destroyer of destroyers. She destroyed ignorance. That's what this deity did, right? It's the part of us that destroys that which would stop us, that takes off the blinders. Anyway, and something that was written in this book said that there was a mantra, that love yourself and let go. Love yourself and let go. Love yourself and let go. And so that was my mantra yesterday. And it got me through that little bit of fear. Just love myself and let go. Like, I'm just going to love myself through this journey of crossing this creek. And I think that when it comes to any kind of relationship, when we have a fear of losing it, to that, I think for me, that's a really good mantra to keep me going through that fear and the transition and the grief and all that stuff that comes with losing a loved one, pet, partner, or parent. It's like not holding on to, holding on to them, but not like controllingly holding on to them, like, continuing to, like, I'll do whatever it takes to keep you in my life, or whatever. But it's very overwhelming, that fear of losing. So I feel that, and it sucks. And I hope that Gomez is okay and is in peace, right? Wherever and however he is, that he's feeling good and peace, And I send that to you as well. I'm sorry. Charles shares that he had this weekend the opportunity to go camping and hiking with a new group of people that I really didn't know. Instructions were vague until the last minute. The place was entirely new to me, and there were opportunities to meet strangers and be vulnerable. All big on the fear list for me. Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that and for doing it. Because, yeah, seriously, like, think about that, right? Like, going somewhere new, meeting new people, doing something that, you can do, right? You can hike, but you don't know what kind of hike it is. Is it going to be like, oh, shit, we're going to be rock climbing at the top, or, whatever it is, what if they're all like, 25-year-olds, or they're all, 800-year-olds. Like, you never know what you're going to walk into. And that fear, right, of walking into the unknown. And then hopefully, Charles, did you have a great experience? Like, was it worth that feeling of fear, the build up, and I want to talk about that in a second. But like, when you were in it, you were in the weekend of the camping, still gonna have like little moments of that fear. And you're also kind of transitioning. Like, when I was on the log on the creek, I was like on it, and I had that, like, I'm in it, it's wobbling. Let me keep going, right? You kept going. Was it worth it? It's always worth it, but like, was it like, yeah, worth it? I'm very curious. And being vulnerable, I think being vulnerable is one of the biggest fears, letting someone know how much I actually care, or letting someone know that I actually need help, or sharing my story, my lived experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. Just that space of vulnerability can be very fearful for a lot of us humans, because the heart is the place that we always get hurt by, or with. Love, we get hurt because of relationships. So it's always the heart. We're like, oh, that last relationship hurt, right? The one that I lost. Now, anything that I could lose, I'm going to have more fear around. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I'm curious if you found it worth it. Alan shares, sometimes I feel fear while driving in Charlotte because of the careless and reckless behavior of other drivers. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are on their phone when they drive. That's a hoot. That's so fun when I'm in my lane and the person next to me is like, I want to be where you are, but they don't bother to look because they're too busy on their device. Cute, real cute. So yeah, I feel that. I say make sure that like that's a fear that like we're still gonna have to do it, right? I mean, you don't have to drive, but if you have a vehicle and you want to get from point A to point B and you don't want to take the bus or walk, you're gonna use your car. So to me, it's like, well, I guess I'm going to maintain my peace about me so that I can calm the fear, right? And tell myself like it's going to be fine. I'm safe. I'm protected. I'm a great driver. I'm a cognizant driver. I have super fast reflexes and my car is super safe and really kind of giving myself that pep talk before I do maybe a daily activity that we have fear around. It's kind of like if you've ever had an addiction, say to alcohol or food, and you go to a restaurant that has a bar, right? Like you could possibly be feeling fear every time you walk into an establishment. Where it's normalized to eat and drink alcohol, it's normalized to drive, right? We can still feel fear when we do these really ordinary things. And so how do we get through that? Because our body wants to kind of freeze up. If my mind goes to a space of like, oh crap, I'm afraid, my body's going to have a reaction, right? My nervous system is going to activate. And I'm going to want to freeze. I'm going to want to fight. I'm going to want to flee. There's another one. Freeze, fight, flight, fight, fly, 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 fly. Anyway, you know them. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. There, fawn. That one. Anyway, so giving yourself a nervous system soothing so that we can get through these things, these normal daily things, really support us getting through these fearful experiences. Thank you for sharing that, Alan. I want to say good morning to Kim. How are you? And good morning to Darlene and Sharon. Y'all are hopping on. I love it. So Charles says it was definitely worth going through the fear, right? Definitely worth it. Awesome. That was fun. Yes. Yeah. Oops. 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 Just clicking buttons, y'all. Hang on. My bad. My bad. There we go. Even though I do like to see you on here, share. I just wasn't meaning to click the chat. And then, yeah, Alan says that he too is feeling very vulnerable now. And he's glad when friends offer to be there for me when the need arises and I don't focus on feeling fearful. Right? Because, like, here's the thing. Fear is a part of our human nature. Like, we need to feel fear. It looked darker on this side. But when I moved that, it wasn't. Anyway, like we are going to feel fear. That's a part of our ego. Our ego tells us, don't turn there. That's not safe. Or there's a bear ahead. They want to turn around. Like our ego is there to keep us really safe. And our ego is also there to tell us that, if you cross that bridge, you're going to fail anyway, to kind of talk down to us. So it's like kind of which part of that ego do we listen to? What part of the fearful ego do we pay mind to? Do we love and accept? Or do we love and accept and say, I love you and you make no sense right now? Like there's no need to be afraid of the tree. Which there are people that are afraid of trees. Check this out. I was talking with someone and they were doing, I'm just moving this around left and right. They were doing, she's a psychologist and they work with children and they take children into the woods and like teach them survival skills. And these are like high risk, at risk youth that have had a really hard time um, managing life and managing the way the system is, trying to be confined into a way of being. So, anyway, so they take these kids out to the woods for like 6 or 8 weeks, I think. And they all wear the same outfit so that there's no like hierarchy, right? They teach them how to, get clean water, how to make a fire, how to live on and with the land. And it really creates a space of empowerment for these kids so that they feel safe in their body. And when we feel safe in our body, then the actions and decisions that we make, that we choose, are in more of our highest good than if we're not feeling safe in our body, because then the choices we make are a little they're out of fear, and we make decisions out of fear, out of feeling unsafe or untrusting. So so they take these kids out and really they immerse themselves in nature and in learning. And a lot, like she was telling me, that there are some kids that when they take them out there that they are afraid. They're afraid of the trees. Like they live in an urban enough environment that there are basically no trees or no forest, no big wooded areas, no sounds of nature, other than horns honking and sirens. So when they go into the woods, they literally have like an integration challenge in just getting into a different frequency, a frequency of nature. So, I share that because I think for us to be able to look at what it is we fear. Do we fear something that's natural? Like, do we fear nature? Do I fear death? Do I fear the death of someone else? Death is a part of life. Like, that's a part of nature. Do I fear the bumblebee? Yeah, I know so many people that are afraid of bumblebees. I'm like, those fluffy buggers don't sting. Like, stop spraying your chemicals and stop swatting at them. Like, stop. I know people that are afraid of bees, regular old honeybees that keep our ecology on this earth in balance. So then they attack and then they wonder why they keep getting stung. It's like, well, if you're swatting at me with a shoe, I'd probably put a stinger in you too. And it sucks if you're allergic. Like, I get it, no judgment, but just pointing out, or am I afraid of someone's reaction? Am I afraid of how someone might treat me if they find out something? I've personally felt this, and I'm curious if you all feel this, if anyone else feels this. Maybe I'm the only one on here. But like, for a while, I was afraid to share the words about me not getting vaccinated. I was afraid I would lose my job here. I was afraid that people would judge me because I've seen so much propaganda that says if you don't get a vaccine, you want to kill other people and you don't care about others. Like, I saw something that was saying, like, if you don't get vaccinated, like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, I'm a part of the control group. With any experiment, there has to be a control group, but it's interesting. Like, I was afraid of other people's potential judgment on something that was my truth, that is my truth. And so now I'm like, well, I guess I'll just speak it. And, but that's not, like, I get judgment is natural because it's just a part of life and it's not in our highest nature. So I don't want to fear other people's potential judgment and then stop myself from doing or being me. Oh, Alan shares, what do I fear? Losing my independence. Yeah. That's so interesting because just as much as we can fear losing our independence, we can also be afraid of being alone. Right? Like, I'm afraid to lose my partner. I'm afraid of, I'm afraid of having someone needing to take care of me, especially in this society, Like for real. We live in a society where the children and the elders are kind of treated like not human. Children are put into basically cages, and we call it the school system. It's set up just like a prison. Not the one that I'm at, but traditional schools are set up just like a prison. The system of regurgitation for success, right? They're not treated like humans, told when they can eat, when they can go to the bathroom, how they can talk, how they can't talk. Like big, like nothing but rules. So they lose their independence when they go into school, and then they're taught that they can't trust themselves because they don't know how to be without someone telling them how to be, which creates a system of a bunch of sheep-like behaviors, right? Because we don't know then how to trust me. I don't even know how to hear my heart or my gut. Then you put poisons in my food that take out my ability to hear my third eye intuition or my gut instincts. It's a very interesting system that we live in. And then as the elders become elders, right? Then it's like all of a sudden the system puts them in a position where it's like, no, we're just going to put you away, right? It's almost like, go ahead and put them into that prison. We'll call it a nursing home. We'll call it this, assisted this, because, you're just old. Like that's the message that's in our system, almost treating the elders like they're useless. And that baffles me because in my mind, in my heart, the elders are who have all the wisdom. Like the elders have all of the knowledge of not only their lived experience, but also from like what they actually have studied in their life, whether they studied books or they traveled the world or they were in wars. Like there's a lot of like life study that happens that the elders have all of this wisdom to share with us. And so what do? We take away their independence and we kind of put them away. So I understand that, Alan, that definitely a fear, and my mom's even saying that, it's also one of her fears, of losing independence. And I just want to encourage all of us, whoever's checking this out, me, everybody, to click in with a community, be an active participant in a community. Like, and learn be independent to still stay self-sufficient, as much as possible, physically and mentally and emotionally, right? As best as you can, right? Autonomy, sovereignty, working on that all day, every day. Yay, wow, woohoo. And like get a support system, get multiple communities, connect with other nonprofits. Promise Resource Network is a great community. You can call the warm line. Oh, check this out, y'all. You can call the front desk. I'll put the number up here. You can call the front desk. And if you're like, you know what, I do want to click in more to a community, you can call this number and Kim is going to answer and guide you to the person you need to and want to speak with. But you can be a peer support. You can work with Promise Resource Network. You can volunteer. You can spend time. You can share time. You can whatever, but you can get more involved in a community. And even if you're housebound or you don't live near Promise Resource Network's hub, like you can still get an active involvement. And I feel that when we're connected with community, that we're less likely to lose our independence because, maybe my kids won't take care of me, and maybe my parents won't take care of me, and maybe my housemate won't take care of me. But if I'm in a community, then part of my tribe will take care of me, right? Like that's how I see it. So you can call the front desk if you want to get more clicked in for a community. The number is 704-390-7709. So wanted to add that on there since you brought that up, Alan, and I appreciate that. Let me hop on here. Hey, good morning. Sarah Catherine and Kimberly have joined. I love the rainbows and the rainy sunshine cloud situation, right? It is definitely a weathery day, whether or not you like it. Yeah, so like, we have a lot of fears, and they can really stop our body from moving forward. They can stop us in our tracks. If you've had a fear of getting hurt, right? You may not be inspired to click into and be a part of an actively participatory community because you're like, oh, you know what? My last friend group doesn't like me. I got kicked out of the last group I was in because I spoke my mind and my opinion. So now I'm afraid to be involved in anything. So fear leads to stagnation in many ways for the body. And then the mind kind of goes overboard, like overactive. Like, this is why, and what about this, and what if they did this, and oh my God, and or the mind will completely shut down and totally distract itself. Like, I'm not afraid of it. No, I just don't want to be a part of a group. I just don't want to be a part of it. I don't care. I don't want to. I'll just never eat again. Taking the martyr role. Their mind will be the martyr. It's the martyr mind, which murders the spirit. Like, it's so true. I want to write that down. The martyr mind murders the spirit because it leads to big time inaction. But I'm curious, like, if anyone else had any experiences this weekend that you had an opportunity to move through some kind of fear, a conversation, an experience. I know someone who is, let's see, they shared with me that their relationship is ending, they're moving, and they are quitting their current job and starting a whole other career path, like huge different career path. And I was talking to him and I'm like, dude, like, that's a lot. Like, that's so much, like, yay. And are you so excited? And he was like, yeah, and I'm afraid. I'm like, well, of course you're afraid, you human. So I'm curious if anyone else had an experience this weekend. Sharon shares, fear of losing independence is a greater fear as we become older. I'm trying to get a larger community to help. My last child in the area is getting ready to move away with her position. Well, that sucks. I'm happy for your other child and happy that she's got a new position and good for her. But yeah, and I feel that, I feel like the elders have been for a long time now forgotten that I think the elders have forgotten that they're the wisdom keepers. Like, I think that whoever you is, if you're an elder, you have forgotten that you are a wisdom keeper, that you have so much knowledge. It's ridiculous. And I'll share with you what a dear friend of mine shared with me one time. He looked at me and he was like, I don't know half as much as what you know. And I was like, duh, I don't know half as much as what you know. It's just perfect how we can communicate because we're always sharing information that the other didn't know. And I think the elders forget that they're wisdom keepers because maybe they look at something that they don't know. Maybe it's technology or science or, I don't know, knitting. I don't know, pick a thing. And like many of us, if we look at one thing and we don't know it at all, and the people we're around know a lot about it, all of a sudden we feel we don't know anything about it. And then we fear even sharing what we do know. Fear that maybe someone else that we're talking to is going to know more and maybe shame us or judge us, as opposed to being like, this is what I know. So I just want to put this reminder out there to any of the elders that are watching. And if you know any elders, forward this to them. You're the wisdom keepers. You have so much knowledge. Please, for the love of all that's holy, share it. Share it with children. Share it with your neighbors. Write it down. Record it. Please, the future generations need your wisdom. We, generation under elders, any of us, don't need only wisdom that's given to us by a system that's designed to oppress and is greed-based. We don't need to have that as the only wisdom. Please, 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 elders. And I am hoping that I'm trusting that there are more communities that are coming together. I had a piece of hair in my arm. I feel like there are more communities that are coming together, and maybe if you're an elder and I'm just trying to think of like different ways to create a larger community, like Sharon is saying, whether it's, going online to Meetup. Meetup is a website where like you can meet with people who have like interests. You can meet anybody from like, you like to bake cookies, you like to speak French, you like the same podcast, whatever. I mean, they have meetups for everything. So perhaps, meeting at different meetups is a way to really meet people who have a like interest, and not just someone that likes to take care of others. Because, okay, so that's good to know. It's like, okay, you're going to take care of me. That means that I'll get fed. Yeah, but then I'm going to be bored. Like I want to be around people that intrigue me, that share some like interests, that like to talk about quantum energy and love and connection or whatever. So I would encourage that for sure. Um, and Alan says that, let's see, there are people in my life who tell me they'll support me in my journey. A few good friends, oh, yay, and my church family. Yes, I'm an elder, and thank you for validating us. I do have a lot of knowledge and experience that I'm glad to share. Yes, for real. Thank you. Like, dude, the elders have so much knowledge. Like, it makes me want to cry at how the elders are treated and have been treated for a few generations now. It was like when the Christian colonization came in and took over the indigenous ways of being around the world. They took away our relationship to the earth and to the wisdom that the earth has and the wisdom of the elders themselves. And so please, if you're an elder, like speak up, share the knowledge you have. I don't know how, I don't know where, just whatever you can, please. Like, I think that so many elders y'all have had a pretty shit experience in your life because you've gotten to deal with either yourself or parents who went through the Depression, and you yourself having witnessed and been through many wars, big economic situations, like big stuff, presidents being murdered and like some bonker stuff that really affects you. And you've made it this far, like to me, even the stories of just how you've made it. And sometimes how you've made it has been, well, yeah, I spent a blur of my life drinking and doing alcohol or drugs or whatever. And now I don't, or this is what it did to my body, or like give any words of wisdom, because everything you have to say is from a wise experience. So I'm curious, any of the elders that are on here, what stops you from sharing your experiences and knowledge? I personally think it's that it's not as glamorized, publicized, and supported by the media and the community. So I'm curious what you all think. I want to say hey to Rachel. How are you? I'm happy you're here. I feel so much better. Can't wait to share with you, my dear, all the changes. Sharon shares, I have lost a relationship that meant the world to me, 2 close losses due to COVID, and I'm about to be on my own physically, financially, and socially. I've looked into Meetup, Wounded Warrior, and the community. It seems to be a slow process. I always remind myself that all the processes are in the perfect time. The more I say that anything is a slow process, the more it stays a slow process. Everything is a belief. Just putting that like energetic spewing out there. So maybe it has been a slow process and maybe it's about to speed up. In fact, Sharon, maybe this process is speeding up in this now moment because of your sharing on this platform in this now and whoever sees it from this moment forward, right? You never know. And, I know that for anyone, right, there's a fear, like that's a big fear, Sharon, that, not like putting this on you, just to speak of this, to be on your own physically, financially, and socially. Like, that's a huge new world to be walking in. Like, okay, believe me, I know. It's fearful. It feels like, oh shit, like what if I fall down? Like physically, or if I metaphorically fall down on my face, like all that stuff. I just want to remind you that you're strong and you're intelligent and everything. You're divine, your source energy in a human body. And everything is working out. And your group is coming to you, and you're coming into the groups that want you, that they don't even know you're about to get to them. And they're going to be so excited when they get to meet you in the real. So just remember that, please. When I asked, let's see, Mama Jane says, young generation's not interested in hearing our knowledge. That is definitely a belief of a lot of the elders, that the young generation's not interested in hearing the knowledge. I know that belief has been given to the elders now, the generation of elders now, but it's not true. It's not true. I talk to kids all the time, and half the time I think that they're not listening. 90% of the time they are. Because everything I share with a youth, everything an elder shares with anyone, everything we share is a seed. Whether we ever see how it grows, how it roots, how it sprouts, we may not ever see that. But if I just never speak it, I just always hold those seeds in, then I am giving a 0% chance of having any of my source experience, my human experience, be put out there for more growth, for inspiration. Because that's what it is, right? We share our stories and people get inspired. Whether it's like, I want to do that, or I don't want to do that. But either way, it's informative. And there's a real story. Like, I can read it in a book that if you do drugs, this, that, and the other will happen to your brain. The end. Okay. And if I talk to a human that says, yo, so I did these drugs for this long, and this is what it did in my brain, and look where I am now. This is how I got here now. This is the healing that I did. This is the type of therapy that I received. Then I'm like, oh my God. So then if I do go down the path of making a decision, perhaps say with drugs, then I know that I'm not shamed to hell and eternity of awful. That I know that in real life that there is healing that happens. Then I'm inspired to move on. So if any elder is watching or listening, and you have a belief that sharing your knowledge, that the younger generations aren't interested and that they don't care, please, I want to tell you that, they do, and that's a belief system. Please erase that belief system from your mind and remind yourself that everything you have to share is of interest. It's poignant. It's purposeful. Please. Charles says, is it what stops us from sharing, or is it getting the younger generations to stop the eye roll and listen when we start with the in my day stories, right? Yeah, you know what? They may roll their eyes. Okay. So what? So what if I fall, right? So what if they roll their eyes? I make YouTube videos. There are times when I'm on here, no one's on here with me. Sometimes no one watches what I do. And it may be 2 years down the road when someone watches it and they're like, thank God Jane made this. Please share it. Eyes may roll. Whoopity-doo. That's what I say. Be aware that, that's a fear of being judged. They'll be bored. They don't care. They're not, and then don't judge them. Assuming that they're not interested, assuming they don't understand, assuming they don't care. Like, I don't need anyone to look at me like that. I don't want an elder to look at Jane and go, she doesn't care, right? She's not interested because she's on her phone. Little do they know I'm on a meetup group trying to find an elder group that can share with me their stories, right? They don't know. So if me, when we look at someone and we say they don't understand, they're not interested, we are holding them in lack, and then we don't even have the courage and grace to move forward. Please do it. Days. I'm glad you mentioned that, Charles. Sarah Catherine says, this weekend was intense, ups and downs. I took a risk inviting a loved one to spend intimate time with me and was rejected. So I got to move through that feeling and align with my agreement to not say things personally. Yeah. The fear, right? The fear of rejection. How about that one? You know, we can fear rejection. That's a fun one to fear, because then we don't do it, or then maybe we do the thing and maybe it's accepted and received, or maybe it's rejected. And either way, it's a really good learning experience. And then to also, then I just remember, the times that I've rejected, when someone, like going on this hike and the hand was outstretched for me to take, and I chose to not receive that support because I wanted to do it alone. I wanted to move through this fear of walking over this creek by myself. I technically rejected their support and their love. And maybe they took it personally. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they were just like, rude. Or maybe they were like, wow, she doesn't even want to touch me. Or maybe they're like, sweet, I don't have to help her. Glad she didn't fall, right? So I'm glad that you shared. I'm really happy you shared that. I hate that. I know how it feels. It's kind of like, asking my mom to visit Charlotte and she says no, or asking my dad to call and he says no, or whatever, just an example. It's like, do they say no because they just don't have the space and that time to do it? Like, are they not in a capacity to do so? Or is it that they are actually rejecting you? Are they rejecting the work that they would have to do what was just requested? So many facets to rejection. It's just Rachel, like, what if I fall down? Yeah. Rachel says the elders need to be given a proper platform. Can we create something like this? I don't know what that looks like, y'all, but like, I don't know. I want to do something like maybe Promise Resource Network. Like maybe we can have like an elders alley where like I can hop on here and hold space for a wisdom keeper to share wisdom, because I know I can bring people on here. It's like we can do a twofer. I don't know. Let me know if y'all would like that, please. Alan says, I want to be around people who have positive outlook on life. I avoid negativity and pessimism. I find it hard to understand and accept as inevitable the awful things that happen in life. I'm willing to share whenever I'm asked to. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I think, we definitely, it feels good to be around happiness. It feels good to be around acceptance. It feels good to be around people that are living from a place of passion, desire, from peace. Like, it just feels good, for sure. Sharon shares, the sharing of knowledge and experience seems too unwelcome in many cases. The younger generations seem to have all the answers. Yep, because the younger generations have been told, right, going back to the system that they grew up in, where like, they're not taught how to garden. They're not taught how to dig a hole. They're not taught how to like dig a well. They wouldn't know what an edible weed is that's actually medicine, because they're too busy spraying everything with Roundup. Like, they literally don't know, because they've been told in the media that this is the answer to your problem. This is the answer, right? Are you looking for love? This is the answer. Are you looking for an erect penis? Here's the answer. It's a pill. Are you looking for a financial solution? Here's the answer. So then you're told all these answers are outside of you through a media platform. They're not taught to listen to them, so that when someone tells them something, they don't know if it resonates as truth or not. It doesn't mean we stop sharing. We give them an opportunity, whoever the them is outside of self, to hear a word of truth and experience, to maybe activate a part of their resonance system that says, ooh, I feel compassion for that human. What is that feeling? I've never felt that. Or maybe it strikes a chord where they're then inspired to be altruistic and like do something. Maybe they're like, wait, what? You can actually plant corn here? What? And it grows taller than me? I want to see it. Like, you never know. You never know. And the younger generations also do have all the answers, just like the elders do. They may be different answers because of the lived experience would be different. But yes, we all have the answers. We're all the guru. We're all the teacher. Oh, thanks. Allie says I like the reference to sharing as planting seeds in people's minds. Yeah, and Mama Jane says they roll their eyes and then interrupt us and start a new conversation, and they're totally focused on their phones. Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like the elders are in a position, where it's almost like a kid and you don't want to get in trouble. So say you're talking to, your child or your grandchild or whatever, and you say something and they roll their eyes and you're like, what are you doing? Like, really? That was a little bit disrespectful. And not just because I'm an elder, because I'm a human. Why'd you roll your eyes? Like, I get, but why did you just yuck my yum? There's a fear to that, because what if you upset them? Right? What if you upset them and then they don't come back? What if they hold back their love? What if they reject, right? Back to the fear of rejection. What if they reject you, right? And they're like, well, grandpa said this and that hurt my feelings, so I'm just not going to go over there. I'll show them, right? So then it's almost like that space of being able to speak up, and not from like a total like asshole way, but just from a place of like, I'm going to stand up for myself. Like, what are you doing? I didn't give you consent to treat me that way. Do you think it's kind to treat me that way? Why do you treat me that way? Like, give them space to answer. Hey, would you, or make requests like, hey, would you be willing to put your phone down for an hour while we're together? Like, would you be willing to do that? I'm willing to do that. Would you be willing to? No? Okay, well, can we come up with a consent, maybe 30 minutes? And try and like work together to do things. Yeah, I think. I want to say, hey to Roberta, how are you? She says, I get that, how people's perceptions dictate your feelings and what you imagine what they meant. Oh yeah, we don't know what people think. We really don't know what people think. And we assume, we do. We assume what people think, what they feel, because we've had our own experience, and this is how I would feel or how I did feel when it happened last, which can then create a space of fear and then not, right? Excuse me, I just burped a little. Sharon shares, I feel that sometimes the elders do that as well, interrupt and start their own conversation. It makes me feel very inferior. Yeah, it's just unkind to not hold space and allow others to be heard, and that's the thing. That's the thing. I'm glad you said that, Sharon, because to me, that is something that goes across all ages. I see kids here. We have a group, we have a morning meeting every day. And because they're kids, there are going to be some that are talking, fidgeting, and making sounds, and some join in on that, right? So they don't mind it. They like being an interrupt. And then you have other kids that are like, well, I want to listen. And then you have the kid that's trying to talk and speak to everybody. That's like, I'm trying to yell over you all, and now you all don't hear me. I don't feel heard. Look at elders, samesies. Look at any middle-aged group of any relationships. We all just want to be heard. And we all want to hear, like, actually want to hear what people have to say. To me, it's way more interesting than listening to some like propaganda in the media machine, personally. Yes, Roberta, 50 and older. Let's see. Kim says, I have fear of stagnation. I experienced family members comfortably judging others based on their skin color. Oh, stereotypes. It's interesting you share that in that way. Thank you for sharing that. I don't fear stagnation for myself. I'm the one that everybody tries to get to slow down because I'm always moving and on the go. I could use the advice to slow down. I'm a creative visionary. What can I say? And when I see others stagnate out of fear in a way that then projects their fear out, right? Back to me crossing the creek. I'm afraid to cross the creek, right? So then I stop, right? And my hiking partner's like, here, I'll take your hand, I'll help you. And I'm like, no. And then I yell at them for helping. And then, or I still don't cross the creek. I've stagnated. And I get mad at the creek. Stupid creek. Why is it here? Why don't they just put a bridge here, right? Like, it sounds like completely far-fetched, but this is what people do. So people have been taught to fear other people that look different. You put a texture of a hair on there, you change the skin color away from their own, and all of a sudden everybody's afraid. So instead of them moving through that fear and getting to know, trying to cross that bridge, trying to cross that creek, they just hold them in stereotypes like, no, you're just this and you're just that, and name call and really stay in that space of fear. They're stagnating in fear. So my fear of stagnation is people that are stagnating in fear. I'm fearing those who are stagnating in fear, because that is some swampy what? Like, that's what I think about. I think of like swampy water, where it's like a lot of stuff is growing and festering in there, and if you drink a little bit, you're gonna die. Yeah, Roberta, me too. She says, I like being around people who have goals. Yeah, making themselves open to new experiences. Yes. Sharon says, my last comment was to Jane. Oh, yeah, I'm very interested in getting more resources for seniors. My town does little for us. I have an appointment with the mayor. That's awesome. Yes. Yes. Let's see. Roberta says, I'm always on the move too, right? So just to kind of round out this hour before we close, I want to share also the warm line again, because I have a feeling that y'all may get a lot of ideas out of this. Some inspired ideas, and maybe you call the warm line for maybe just support to cheer you on, whether you share your idea or not. Just be like, hey, I'm having really amazing ideas, and can you just cheer me on? Like, can you just tell me that like my ideas aren't wackadoodle and that I deserve to be heard, please? Thanks. But call the warm line. It's free, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number is 833-390-7728. Seriously, good stuff. Just for support, whatever that looks like to you. And I just want to put this encouragement out there to all of us that fear is a part of life. It just is. It just is. There are things every single day of our life that we have to fear. And when we can pause, acknowledge it, and get to like the depths of that, like, what am I really afraid? Why am I angered at their eye roll? Well, because it's rude. Well, it means that they don't respect me. That means that they don't love me. Right now, then that goes to the fear of not being loved. So I encourage the pause when you come to fear, when fear comes to you, when it presents itself, and just be with it and acknowledge it and just see how you can move through it. Maybe it's to offer grace to yourself or the other person. Maybe it's to take a few more breaths. Maybe it's a place for inspiration and inspired action to create something new. Maybe it's to create your own meetup group. But acknowledge fear, feel it in your body, and let it move through, and see what you can do physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually to move through fear. Don't take it personally. However you take fear, how you move through it or don't. And keep loving yourselves, man and ladies. Like, keep loving yourselves. And keep loving each other. And I love you, and I want to hear you. So whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. So thank y'all for being here with me this morning on this it's a rainy gray Monday, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in and being with me and chiming in. It means a lot to me. I'll be on here tomorrow at 6 for expansion. So I'll be going into the spiritual dimension of wellness, probably around the same topic of fear. So kind of have your thinking caps on and your heart wide open. And I will see you all then, okay? Love you. Bye.